I guess it's my turn to do a top 100 list, and I am terrified. I mean, I'm excited, but I'm mostly just terrified. Because when I agreed to do this, I thought, oh, well, that'll be fun. And then I realized what it would take to make this series, and I started to panic a little bit. And then I watched everybody else's top 100, and I really started to freak out because I loved Jared's unique approach to the top 100. And let's face it, nobody can beat Chaz's entertaining tops list. So what could I bring to the table that would be interesting or informative or useful? But then I realized, well, I'll just cheat. So you may have noticed from the title of this video that I am going to do a top 50 board games list. And then I'm actually going to do a top 50 board game apps list because I get asked for that a lot anyhow. So, hey, cheating. But I think I have everything ready for my top 50 board games. I've got my wall of games backdrop, which seems to be kind of necessary. And I've spent hours in Excel shuffling board game titles around. So let's take a look at my top 50 board games. Coming in at number 50 is Firenze. This is essentially a resource management game that has you building up towers of different colors using these really great stackable tower pieces. But the meat of the game is actually in this card market because there are cards that will help you and cards that will hurt you. And if you want to skip down the line to get to a card you really, really want, or skip past a card you really, really don't, you're going to have to drop tower pieces as you go. But tower pieces are what you need to score points, so it really creates some interesting and tough decisions during the game. Another element to Firenze that I really, really like is that there's a fair amount of player interaction for a Euro-style game, because some of these cards will let you do some really mean things to your opponents, which means some of you won't like this game very much, because there's a fair amount of take that, but personally, I like it. Firenze is a beautiful production. The tactile element of those stacking pieces is wonderful and everything works really, really well. And it plays in like an hour. So Firenze is definitely worth my number 50 spot. My pick for number 49 is Gold West. I really love these medium weight Euro games, and Gold West is one of my favorites. I think the Moncala style resource management is super fun, and I always find it puzzly and challenging to make sure that I can do something on my turns as my resources empty out. I really like that the board switches out every game, so no game feels exactly the same. And I really like that there are different paths to victory, so you can kind of play around with different strategies each game, and it forces you to be tactically flexible as you adapt to what your opponents are doing. Gold West production quality is really, really strong. All the cardboard is super thick. The art style is really, really cool. And you get all these fun little tent pieces that are a little hard to pick up, but definitely worth the effort. Gold West is a phenomenal production, plays in like 60 minutes, is super accessible and easy to teach. So it comes in at my number 49. I really struggle with larger groups and games because it seems like after you exceed 5 players, it's kind of like, which party game do you want to play? And I'm not a big party game fan. But my number 48 game really helps solve this, and that is Between Two Cities, because it scales up to 8 players perfectly, and it's not a party game. In fact, it's this really puzzly game in which you play semi-cooperatively, because you play and build a city with a person to your left and a person to your right. And that creates this great negotiation tug of war as you're trying to convince your two partners to play optimally for your cities. But you have to keep an eye on what everybody else is doing so you can make strategic decisions. And of course, your partners have other partners that you are trying to beat. So it creates some interesting tension there. The production quality on Between Two Cities is great. The art is really pretty and it's super quick to play. So Between Two Cities is a light and quick puzzly filler game that plays up to 8 players. It is a definite winner and my number 48 game. I love 2-player games. I have the maybe mistaken belief that by limiting the player count, it actually enables game designers to create a more tightly balanced game, creating a really tension-filled gameplay experience. And coming in at number 47 is the first 2-player game that will hit my list, and that is Acrotiri. This is a tile laying and pick up and deliver game in which you're laying down tiles that have water and islands and temples on them, and you're basically trying to create temples, pick up resources, and drop them off at the central island. But the twist in the game are these cards that have different temples printed on them. And you have this extra goal of trying to orient temples on the board so that they match the orientation on your card. What I really like about this is that the orientation is contextual for where you are sitting. So a card that works perfectly in your hand might not work at all in your opponent's hand across the table because the orientation of the board is actually reversed, right? I think that this is a super compelling gameplay element and it's unique and super fun. Akrotiri is complex and deep, and it's definitely a little bit meatier, and it's one of my all-time favorite two-player games. You should definitely check it out, and it's my number 47. It's a good thing I'm on the Dice Tower because I love dice games, and one of my favorites is Blueprints, my number 46 pick. Blueprints is really a dice drafting game in which you get a blueprint card that has a dice structure shown on it that you have to match. And each of the dice colors represents a different building material, like glass or wood or green materials. And each of those materials scores differently depending on how they're used. So what's going to happen is you're going to get this card and you're going to look at the pattern and you're going to immediately start thinking about, okay, these are the materials I want to use to score optimally. But it's a dice game and a drafting game. So inevitably, when that dice pool comes around to you, you'll find that the person right before you took that one die that you desperately needed to complete your scoring plan. And I love the tactical flexibility that forces as you play. Blueprints has that amazing dimensional element to it as you're thinking kind of in 3D. It has the puzzling nature to that as well as how the different dice materials score and even a slight, dexterity element as you're stacking up this fun little tower of dice behind your player's shield. Blueprints is super quick, it's easy to teach, and it is my number 46 pick. Coming in at number 45 is Keyflower. I love this tile laying and auction game. First you have the tile element to the game, where different hexagons are producing different resources, and you're building up your own personal village with them, and aligning roadways and waterways and things like that. And distance matters because you have to travel your resources, so you have to think about that, and you can actually visit other people's villages and use their resource production as well, which is always fun. But the way you get these tiles is my favorite part of the game because you have to bid on them using meeples. But you don't really have player colors in this game. Instead, meeples are kind of a currency setter. So once a red meeple is bid on a tile, that is the only color of meeple that can be put on that tile. So it creates some really interesting gameplay situations as you're trying to bid up people before you cut and run, or as you try to block people from tiles that they want because you know they don't have the color of meeple that you can play there. All of those elements tie together to one of the best auction mechanisms in any game ever, and why Keyflower hits my number 45. Tile laying is one of my favorite game mechanisms of all time, so coming in at number 44 is the quintessential classic tile laying game, Carcassonne. Nothing can be said about Carcassonne that hasn't already been said, so I will just say that I love classic Carcassonne. I like a lot of the expansions, but my favorite version of the game is actually Carcassonne the City, where you have that city wall element to deal with as well. Carcassonne is a classic for a reason. It stands the test of time. I love it. It will always be in my collection, and it is my number 44 game of all time. Anyone who knows me knows I am easily taken in by cute in a game, and I'm not going to apologize for that. But I do think that the cuteness of my number 43 game kind of confused some people because Happy Pigs is a wonderful action selection game, but the cute aesthetic just didn't seem to match for some people. That said, I love Happy Pigs. It's adorable, and it is a great economic and action selection game in which you're building up this tableau of a pig farm in front of you, and you're growing it through 4 different actions like mating, buying, selling, and feeding. The trick is you're blind bidding on these different actions each round. So if you and opponent both pick the same action, you have to split the action points. But if you pick an action alone, you get all of those action points, which can be a huge benefit. So that element of figuring out what you think your opponents are going to play, when you have to pick a certain action and when you can be a little more flexible, and timing all of that is really compelling. Along with all of that, you're doing it growing these silly little pigs, and I think that that's delightful. So Happy Pigs is a great, relatively easy and quick economic action game, and it is my number 43. My number 42 game is Looney Quest, and I love this game that uses drawing and spatial recognition as core mechanisms. Basically, you get this board in the middle of the table that has obstacles or goals printed on it. And then you get a transparency sheet in front of you. And you have to draw the line on your transparency while eyeballing this central board to try to connect the dots or avoid the bombs or whatever goal is printed on the board. It is harder than it looks. On top of that, Looney Quest throws in different challenges like having to hold a tile on top of your pen or closing an eye or throwing an obstacle on an opponent's board. All of which, makes an already challenging game even more challenging and gamerly, and it is a ton of fun. Looney Quest recently got a worldwide release, so I'm super excited about that. And it has this ridiculous expansion in which you put this latticed pyramid over the board, making it even harder to see. It's ridiculous and ridiculously fun. So Looney Quest comes in at my number 42. My number 41 game is Homesteaders, which is a worker placement and auction game. And really, when I think about it, none of the individual components of Homesteaders is super standout. The auction works really, really well as you try to bid on the ability to buy different tiles. The worker placement element works really, really well because along with the base actions, as you add tiles to your city, you'll add more and more available actions. And the resource management works well with really wonderful wooden bits in the second edition. So why do I like it so much? Well, it's hard to say. For me, everything in this Western theme game just clicks together so well. The auction, the worker placement, the city building with the little different tiles that give you resources and actions. I just love it. Homesteaders second edition is a phenomenal game that I wish was still in print, but if you get the opportunity to try it, I definitely recommend Homesteaders, my number 41 game. Phew, that was tougher than I thought it was going to be, and it was just 50 through 41. I wonder how hard the top 10 is going to be. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully that was vaguely interesting to you. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I will see you for number 40.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.